everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Go to the website, register your team, get ready for a great spring and summer. We got destinations in Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri, all across the Midwest there. Looking forward to the winter workout tour. We're going to be in Kansas City. We're going to be in Nashville. We're going to be at Lake of the Ozarks having some fun, talking some baseball. We got some great clubs lined up that we're going to be visiting across the state there. Mackin Sites, Inside Edge. We're going to be down with Midland, Blue Baseball down in Nashville as well. Over to Lake of the Ozarks, LOZ Training. And we're going to visit Ballparks National as well. So a lot of fun. Stay tuned, please. If you're looking forward to this, you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button. It's right there. Next to it is a dinger. If you hit the dinger,
chicks dig it.
That's right. You will get all your notifications. Yep. Yeah. All your notifications for upcoming episodes such as this, because we got a great panel and a great show for you today. We invited Coach Dave Wilson from Staley High School. He's been talking about this proposal. They've been proposing some changes to the MSHAA playoff format. Coach Wilson, thanks for joining us, and we appreciate you bringing this topic.
You bet. You bet. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And as always, the guru himself, Mr. Kevin Moulder. Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. I'm sitting next to the legend over here, 600 wins. Right? See, Coach Wilson, yep. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Mr. Tony Perkins, how are you, Coach?
Great, thanks.
Good. Hey, I don't care, man. 600 wins. That's pretty good.
A lot of wins.
Just means I'm old.
I've been on the other end of those.
You got me your share, buddy.
So this area back here is basically production. They do a lot of the artwork back here. They do the production. So any of that stuff that comes in off of, we'll say, our fanware stores, stuff that comes in off the team stores, a lot of the coaches wear, a lot of the last minute, hey, we got to have it in the next 10 minutes stuff. That's all comes back here. This area is where all the day-to-day stuff that comes in really goes through. The retail store is its own little entity. This is where the real work is done.
And just an FYI, too, folks, and we're happy to do this. Coach Wilson, this is going to be his last year coaching high school baseball, so we want to say congratulations on a great career. We're looking forward to it, watching this season. So, you know what? I'm going to root for you just because of that. Hope you win the state tournament. No offense, Coach P.
I'll play him in a state championship game, put it that way. I'll root for him, too.
There's a lot of love in this room.
I just want to get out. I just want to get out of that district.
Yeah, no kidding. I feel you there, brother.
So let's get into this here, guys. We got a great topic. Missouri State High School Athletic Association or Activity Association, they're the governing body over the state and baseball as far as playoffs and district playoffs and things of that nature. Coach, you put together a proposal to change some things, some playoff formats and things of that nature. Why don't you fill the folks in on some of these things that you had proposed?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say to the committee of the last 3 years, all the coaches that have been on that advisory committee have played just as much of a role in that as I have. So I want to give those guys credit also because the year before I was put back on the advisory committee, they had proposed a playoff change before I got there. And then it just kept growing as far as how we wanted to do it. But all the guys on the committee deserve credit for that, and really coaches across the state, because I've taken in a lot of feedback from many coaches that, like Tony Perkins and Justin Tao and Ryan Stiegel, different coaches all over the state. I can't name them all, but yeah. So it's been a group effort. I want to clarify that.
Very good. So talk to
But
us. Go ahead,
go ahead.
and summarize a little bit of this format that you guys have been proposing.
Well, so we've been proposing something, and it would be for all classes if they wanted it, but it really would fit the class 5 and 6 level because when they changed a few years ago and went to the large districts, it cut out a playoff game in the middle round of high school baseball for our two classes. Used to be a sectional game and then a quarterfinal game, and it was really a neat round for strategy in the playoffs. And once they went to the large districts, it cut that out. So the playoff system we have proposed, we think more fits the mold of what baseball is. Baseball's never been a single elimination sport at any level. You go down to youth league, college baseball, professional baseball, any type of governing body of baseball has never had a one game and done scenario in that sport. In football they have, in soccer, in basketball, it's always been single elimination. But that's the same as it is in about every league in their sports. Okay, so we wanted something that fit baseball and the pitching part of baseball, which is a huge part of it. It's, I think, with a double elimination, best 2 out of 3, it really tests the depth of your pitching staff, and it really makes you have a complete team. Like the complete team will come out usually victorious, in that type of format. So we just think it's more represents what baseball is and the fun part of baseball, the strategy part.
Thoughts?
Oh yeah, it's been going on for a long time. I was on the advisory committee years ago, and Eric Briggs, who was involved at Lakeland at that point in time, and then he worked out with the Royal Scout team, had a great proposal. And like Dave was saying, talking to the wrong people, because the coaches, all the bigger schools, they want it. There's no doubt in my mind, but they're not the people that vote on it. It's the superintendents and principals, and a lot of times I have ADs and people like that, just depending on the size of the school, who's making those decisions, and I really feel, this is kind of a jab, but I just feel like they think it's going to be more games and more games they have to supervise, so they say no.
Well, to me, Kevin, your thoughts on this proposal. We've talked a lot about this. I want to hear from you and kind of what your thoughts are, because we talk about pitching depth, and I love what Coach said there, because I do think that creates an interesting format.
Yeah, I think you know where my thoughts lie, but I've been fortunate enough to been recruit and watch, observe high school baseball across the country, and the ones that put the most emphasis into baseball and quite honestly produce most of the top end talent have a double elimination format. And I think Missouri has those type of talented players, those type of teams where they're deserving of following a similar format. But if you look at a state like Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, those guys are using a double elimination format. And Coach Wilson's shared that with us, and I like the format that he put forward. I'm sure guys would be open to small adjustments as well, but I thought that one was a really smart format that would work extremely well. I realize it is extra games, but I think you're way more likely to get the true champion. Now, I admit I think a lot of the best teams have ended up at the Final Four here recently, but everyone here knows that, one day, can undo a season, and the best team doesn't always win. And I think in a double elimination format, that'll give us a better opportunity to get a true champion.
Yeah, when you got the stud going, and they can go in some districts, they can go district championship game, then they go the quarterfinal game,
Right.
and then they do the semifinal game. So they're in the state championship game with the guy that's thrown 3 games. It's all reliant on one stud pitcher. Now, if you do double elimination, like Coach Wilson is saying, you got to use other guys. So it's a measure of depth, and it's getting a lot more people involved, and you just can't rely on it. Baseball's unique, and I got this from Coach Wilson, tell you the truth, that it's the only sport where one guy can win your ball games, and everybody else is not like baseball.
Well, and like I explained to Misha, and I've explained to other coaches of other sports, I've coached football for 27 years, and unless he gets injured, our starting quarterback is going to be the starting quarterback for every game. And but baseball's the only sport where, by rule, your top guy, now it's a good rule, it's a safety rule, but your top pitcher, he can't play every game.
Right.
Okay? He has to sit out a 4-day window or something like that. And I told our head football coach, I said, imagine if you had to pick the game that our starting quarterback played. And you had the strategy of trying, and you had to go to your number 2 in the other game. And I said,
Sorry,
that's
Coach,
the way it is. That's the way it is in all the sports, even volleyball and soccer and basketball. And so that's why it's unique. We are different. And even in softball, they use the same girl every game. And so baseball's unique in that way.
I was going to jump in and say I love Missouri has some great high school baseball tournaments, and the Troy tournament, the Best in the Midwest Coach Perkins puts on, and then the Columbia tournament, are phenomenal tournaments because you guys get tested so much on your depth. Oftentimes you're calling up sophomores that haven't pitched a varsity inning, and it's a great look at an entire program, and it truly tests your depth. Now, I'm not suggesting that we get ourselves into a position like that where you guys are having to call up kids that haven't pitched a varsity inning for a district championship game, but I do think that it's time for Missouri baseball to make a change and get into a double elimination format.
Brian, would you like me to say what the proposal is?
Yeah, we're going to come right back to that real quick,
Okay.
Coach. I want to say this. We're talking about depth. And this, you look at last year, and this isn't a knock. This is just reality when you're watching ball games. We were there. Tate McGuire goes for Liberty North, wins. Bryson Naputi goes for you guys. Those are the 2 number 1s in the semifinals. They both
do the
win.
quarterfinal games, too.
Exactly. Well, now you got your number 2, Alex Bryan, which he's a really good pitcher. Probably not as much experience in a game like that. But you had the number 2 for Liberty North, and he was just a bit better than.
And the number 3.
Right? Exactly. And so we're talking about depth, and that's where it played out, in my opinion, right, Coach?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the – and so when you have those things, that doesn't mean that Alex Bryan is not a good pitcher. He just didn't have enough in that moment, in that place, and your number 2s, you're duking it out. And that goes to the depth and what you're showing right there.
I threw 5 guys in that loss.
Yeah.
Get him
Well,
experience.
and Brian, even saying that, think about this from the kid's standpoint. Tony's number 2, in that he didn't get to pitch for 2-3 weeks.
Right.
Now he's got to step up in the state championship round where he would have pitched in every round leading up to that. That's a big layoff, and that's not fair to the kid.
Yeah, you try to replicate that in practice and stuff, but there's no replacement for games.
That's a great point. It's not only not fair to that kid that's suddenly pitching in the biggest game of the season and hadn't pitched in 2.5 weeks. It's also denying them, what about the teams that get eliminated in the sectionals? Those kids aren't getting the opportunity to participate, and they've been such a key member of your team to get to that point. When your second best pitcher per se doesn't get to pitch in something like that, I don't think that's right either.
Because we saw Alex Bryan deal in the district championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was lights out. He pitched a great ball game, and that 2 weeks off. That's a guy. I didn't even think about that, Coach. When he's laid off now, and you're not throwing like that. I think that's a great point. These are all things that I think are very interesting in this subject. Go ahead.
Yeah, in the major leagues. I mean, when a guy has 2 weeks off and he hadn't started 2 weeks, you hear every announcer in there and the color commentators saying, they're a little bit worried about his command because he hasn't pitched in 14 days.
Yeah.
So that's the top of the food chain in baseball's talking about how that can play a big role.
So let's get into this. What are we talking about here then, Coach? What has been this proposal? And let me do this before we do that. I want to come back to this. We talk about these things, and as we're putting this proposal, it's going to MSHAA. Once you lay this out, I want to talk to the point of who are the people we're supposed to get into. You guys have talked about the ADs, the district supervisors. These are the hurdles that we're dealing with. And in this proposal, how are they seeing these things? Correct? I think that's a huge point, evidently, right? So go ahead, Coach.
Yes. Well, I'll go to the proposal. So with an 18 district, you would have your seedings of 1 versus 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5. That first game of districts would actually be single elimination. So the very first game eliminates 4 teams. And then the second round, you have 4 teams left. Now it becomes a double elimination tournament from that point forward. And it really only adds 1 to 2 games to the entire district, and that's it. That's and that's only if you get to the championship and have to beat somebody twice. So it's not adding that many games to the whole process. But then so you would end up with a district champion who would most likely have to win 1, 2, maybe 4 games to win districts instead of 3. And then the second round, which it's only 2 teams left, would be a best 2 out of 3 to go on to the Final Four. And once you get to the Final Four, then the Final Four would stay the same. You'd have a semifinal and a championship. And it would not change for MSHAA because, they have a tough job to do down there fitting all the different classes in for that week. And we understand that. So it only affects the district round and the quarterfinal round.
Hey, Wilson, that quarterfinal, are you saying doubleheader on one day to maybe be done in one day, and then the next day if needed?
Yeah. So
okay.
You would play. You could play a doubleheader on Friday. We actually had 1 game on Friday, and then 2 games the next day. So
gotcha.
It would
Makes
be
sense.
the if needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, to me, an easy thing, you're talking about maybe 2 extra games, right?
Extra day.
That's it.
Extra day. Okay, even at that.
One day.
Even at that, even if you say, okay, we're going to cut off, 2 games from the regular season. What is it, 36 right now you can play?
Yeah.
So you bring it down to 34.
You're still getting a week off, at least
Right?
6 days off.
Right.
I mean, for the Final
Yes.
Four, so it don't matter as far as rest goes because you got to throw 105 and still be ready to roll in the Final Four.
So
Yes.
I think there's definitely options here if you're looking at athletic directors who are saying, you know, where do we squeeze all this in and this, that. You can create some opportunities that way pretty simply, in my opinion. You know, if you cut, you know, because how many, there are a lot of Class 6 schools that will take it full advantage of 36 games, and then there's others that don't. There's other schools that don't. And, you know, you've seen teams that, you know, 26-3, or, you know, then there's 25-10, but it's the difference in scheduling. Can you get a team on your schedule? Is it the team you want? And those are things that, you know, each coach is working on themselves, correct?
Yeah, I think MSHAA should be juiced about more games because they're making more money, and they like that.
Absolutely.
You got more games, you got
yes.
more money, and you got more fans, and, you know, more games. Man, it's a win-win.
I was just about to comment on that. You know, you go to a typical Missouri high school baseball game in late March, late April, the crowds aren't big. But when you get to the postseason, we're talking the district championships, the semifinals, and absolutely the sectionals. The game, and I've been to a good number of these games the past couple of years. You're looking at 700 to 1,300 people at those events, and you know, times the ticket price. So there should be enough to cover those expenses for a team to, you know, make the travel. And you know, there might be a few situations where a team has to stay in a hotel, but a lot of times there wouldn't be a situation where we would have that come up. So I think that you always got to look at it from a financial standpoint, unfortunately. But I think we'd be covered in this situation.
I love it because last year I'm out at Troy for the district final, and I'm having to stand out in the behind the outfield on the big ledge because the stands and all around the front are just jam-packed. I mean, it was packed. Kevin, I know, has been to these. You were there, Kevin. I think you got squeezed up in the stands, didn't you?
I was there an hour early, so yes, I got box seating behind home plate.
Coach, we haven't been over there. How is the district finals and those things? How are they attended on your end?
Oh, they're packed. I mean, I went to, after we had gotten knocked out. Well, we had a ton of people at our Liberty North game. I mean, it was all the way up and down the sidelines there at William Jewell where we played it. But then after we had gotten beat, I went to watch, you know, a kid that I coached in summer ball. It was a Kearney Smithville game, and my goodness, I mean, it was all the way around the ballpark. And that was at Class 5, and it was packed. So they do well when it comes to playoff baseball in Missouri.
Quite honestly, you could make a strong case for taking a hard look at doing neutral site sectionals at some of the small colleges. I understand coaches might want to host them at their school. But if you're drawing numbers like this, you're having 1,000+ people, you know, having it at one of the local colleges makes some sense from a, you know, facilities standpoint and viewing and restrooms, concessions, et cetera. And that's a whole nother box of worms, I understand. But that is the type of, you know, attendance that these games are drawing.
So, Dave, at this point, you've made this proposal. Everybody has seen this, right? Where is
Yes.
this at? Where are you guys at? What's the feel? What's the thought process here?
Well, let me first explain how it all works. And Tony has been part of this. So every year, right after the state championship game, a few days after it, the Baseball Advisory Council will meet with MSHAA. It'll be a scheduled day, and you'll go down there, and anything that has been reported to us for changes that a coach is requesting, we will have sent that in to discuss at that meeting that day. So you've got basically nine coaches or 8 coaches. I can't remember what it is. And then, our executive director for baseball at that meeting. And so you'll discuss it, and then those coaches in that room will vote, and they'll vote whether to pass it on to MSHAA's executive directors and their council. And so for the last 3 years, it's been unanimous. 100% of the coaches have pushed it on, and there's small school coaches in there that think it makes sense for the bigger classes to do that. And so here's where it goes from there. Once it goes to MSHAA's board, our director, which has been Doug Kessler, will then plead our case to be able to move it to the questionnaire that goes out to all the athletic directors or principals, superintendents, and to see if they would vote for a proposal like that. So it has the MSHAA executive board has to see a reason why they should put that on the questionnaire. And then after that, then it goes to vote. It goes out to all the ADs and principals. And then beyond that, then there's a final vote that happens from like the superintendent's board. Mm-hmm. So they have to approve it in the very end to make it actually be passed through. So there's a couple different levels that it has to go through, and I think that's been the frustration point. Ken, what I've noticed is in football, they seem to be able to get a change made in 1 year, from 1 year to the next.
Yeah.
In ours, it seems to get to a certain level and then it dies, or it gets. This year, I can tell you for a fact this year, the 2 out of 3 at the quarterfinal level is going on the questionnaire. They did not pass through the double elimination. So, I look at it 2 ways. I can sit there and be bitter about it, or I can figure out a better way to write it and a better way to organize so that we talk to the right people and we say it in the right way. And that's what I've tried to work on every year.
Well, I know that we really, really appreciate what you've done, Dave. Really have. And you've done it in a professional manner, and you've tapped. I mean, you called me numerous times, Kansas City, St. Louis. He talked about Justin Town, Columbia. I mean, it's not just Dave Wilson. I mean, he is smart enough to try and get a lot of people together to get this data and this information going. And I just think MSHAA's throwing us a bone by putting the quarterfinal in there. We got something out there, and that's just a little piece of it. But, heck, if we can get that, it's a win.
And that's been probably the biggest frustration. I expressed this probably about a month ago when they're like, well, it has to go through the questionnaire, and the questionnaire doesn't go out till a certain time. And then so it won't be able to happen this year, but, maybe next year. And I'm like, why? I mean, how hard
How many years have we heard that?
Yeah, to send out the questionnaire right now, because even that change would be monumental for the sport. And I'm like, there's no reason why adding 1 day to the playoff format cannot be voted on again right now to make the sport better.
Totally agree.
I want to ask this question real quick because, since I've been doing this, we've now talked to, this will be our 3rd baseball director. 3rd baseball director with MSHAA. Why is that? I mean, to me, this becomes, the other part. I don't know what it's like
in
other sports.
Especially when a guy comes in with no baseball background or softball background. I mean, back in the day, we had guys that were wrestling guys doing baseball and had no idea about the sport. And that's true.
And I feel bad.
More than one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And the hard part is because in working with Doug and now working with Daryl, they're good people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
And, but we haven't had a pure baseball background person since Tim Thompson in that position. And that's a very difficult position for those guys to be in because, we're traveling. Most of us even travel through the summer, and we're seeing how the sport is played and how it's viewed and the popularity of it in our world. Whereas it's a tough spot for a person to be in that doesn't see it live and live it a little bit. So I feel for those guys. I mean, I really do. And they do the best they can when we're in there talking to them of trying to see it our way.
I was in there with Tim Thompson, and he helped me tremendously. That's when we got the bonus days and we got to play more games. That was kind of the premise right there everybody wanted to do. And he said, well, Tony, if we word it this way, it might go. I'm going, perfect.
And
Let's go.
I would say this to Misha. I've talked to a lot of these people and whatnot. See, whenever I talk about things like this, and this is, I think, the difficulty. Sometimes people take things personal and they think, well, you're attacking them and whatnot. No, we're not. We're not attacking anybody. I like these people. I really think Doug Fessler did a great job over the last 2 years with the state tournament. Kevin can tell you that. We talked about it. And he came on the podcast at the state tournament, talked. I've really enjoyed Doug Fessler. I think he's a nice man. But what I don't see is stability in making decisions. How do you make a decision that's best for a program or a sport if there's no stability there? You're changing every 1, 2, 3 years. How do you do that? I don't do that in my business. I don't do that in things. Instability in those things and decision makers in those situations, if it's constantly changing and revolving, doesn't make for a good situation. And everybody knows that. That doesn't mean these are bad people or anything like that, but how do you come to these decisions? How are you, if you're making a proposal, well, now we got to go to this next guy. He doesn't know a thing about it.
You got to start over.
Exactly.
I think that the guys that are in those positions are older guys, and they've either retired and finishing out a few more years to get their insurance paid for or whatever. So you're not going to get a guy in there for 10 years, which would be ideal.
Right.
I would think if you get a good guy, get him in there
five,
and that listen. Yeah, we'd take 5. But I think that they get in there and they get older, they get tired of it, they're done, and they go to the lake and fish.
I understand that.
But it really comes down to it like in doing it with Doug the last couple of years. I mean, we would really have some great conversations about it, and I think it was really good on his part because he wanted to fully understand it. So when he went into to post that argument of why we need to change, he wanted to fully understand it. So I appreciate the heck out of him for that. And, it comes down to that executive board. And it's the other people in the room that vote on that to see if it can even move through to the questionnaire. And now we do have a new leader at MSHAA. And so I'm sure that us getting to push the quarterfinal through to the questionnaire, maybe they're starting to, listen and say, hey, there's something to this. I just don't understand. I have not been able to understand, and nobody's convinced me. And I told Doug this, how that one day for quarterfinals can't be changed this year. That is not a major change. And I've seen football change things year after year after year. And another issue we have, and I'll be honest with you, our meeting is in June. So it's after the state championship. Well, a lot of coaches and ADs and everybody's left and they're out of school and they're gone for the summer, so it's really a tough time to even have that meeting. Doug and I had talked about that meeting for baseball might should occur possibly in like February, where you can take a day off of school, go down to Jeff City, or maybe right after our Coaches Association clinic. And that way you get all the ideas from the coaches that want to change, or maybe want to change. And that way we have all that information available and we hammer it out in February before the season starts. Because it's better for us to do it then. And that way it would be ready for the following year. But right now, man, the June one's tough. Especially for a baseball coach, because most baseball coaches, Tony has been there. We coach in the summer. We're doing.
Yeah, we're rolling.
Yeah, it's hard to get a hold of people, and it's very difficult. So, anyways, that's been the frustrating part to me. I do feel like this, and I will tell Darryl Bradley the same thing. If they make this change, the double elimination, single, first game, and then double, and then the 2 out of 3, Missouri will have one of the best playoff systems in the entire 50 states. And it will be an awesome, awesome thing to see. And college coaches will want to come to it. I mean, they'll see them all. And they'll see all the good arms and everything.
Kevin, you can speak to that. I mean, you're seeing all these guys. We talk about these players. You've just been going through all the scouting and the rankings and whatnot. That would be a premier opportunity, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and it would help grow the sport because these sectional best of threes and district championships would come even bigger events and create more and more interest and there would be a trickle down effect to that. And I think honestly over the years, quality of play and quality of player would continue to improve. Just how we've seen a slow evolution of our facilities improving across the state, and one school does something, then the rival district next door needs to do something. So I think the same effect would happen with this playoff scenario.
I love the strategy part of it. Do you throw the guy's throwing his number 1? Do you throw your number 3? And your 2 and 3 is better than his 2 and 3?
No, you throw your 1. I'm not the gambler guy.
Hey, Tony and I have been stuck in that situation before.
Right.
You're in a sectional game, and your number 1, you're getting ready to pull him, and you got to decide, do I go with my 3 and save that 2 for the quarters if we make it? Right. Or do I bring the 2 in now and lose them all?
Because what Wilson's talking about, it's a sectional game, and then 2 days later, that's Tuesday, 2 days later is the quarter. All right, so do you get ahead and you keep him under 30 pitches, or do you go with him and then who do you go to next? Depending on the game, you might have to burn your top 2 guys, to be eligible to have them pitch 2 days later. That's some strategy.
I love that because that creates that whole atmosphere of baseball. And does your number 1, your number 2, your number 3, do you have a bullpen? Do you have guys? Are you and not to mention, Coach, and you guys can both speak to this. You're playing in that 3-game event. Who are those sophomores that have been playing JV that might need to come up and get a couple of innings just to get you through?
Yes.
Right?
There's always whenever you run that type of scenario for baseball, and you see it in the World Series or you see it in the College World Series, somebody's going to pop out that becomes like a no-name kid.
Right. Who's that guy?
That all of a sudden becomes a star of the whole series. And that's what people love about baseball. Hey, and let's be honest. I mean, we're really proposing something that's going to put more criticism on the decisions we make as a coach. Believe me, I got a lot of coaches that sit in the stands.
We all do.
Somebody once asked Kent Fuel. It was a dad said, "Hey, Coach, if you ever need any help, man, I'll come out and help you. He's like, oh, hell, I got enough assistant coaches. They're lined up down the fence down there. I'll never have a problem getting assistant coaches.
I got plenty of advisors.
That's fuel.
Yes.
I love that.
I think that's why I think Kevin would agree, Tony would agree. Man, that's why baseball, you just fall in love with it. That's why we're still doing it, because that is a great part of the game. Just you love that strategic part of the game. And so I think it'd be great if we could get it done.
I love this conversation. And so, we're needing these coaches to lobby the ADs, right?
Yes. If you just at least talk to your own,
right, right?
Yes. Well, and so going back to the vote 2 years ago, we lost 7-1 because it kind of went to the group, the executive board. We lost 7-1. Well, the only vote yes was my superintendent, because I talked to him about it. And, a lot of the, some superintendents aren't really big into athletics and some really are, but you got to know your people. And I even remember having a principal one time when I was at Hickman, and he was not a sports guy at all. But, man, I loved him as a principal, because if I went in there to talk about something and could say it in a way where it made sense, he was my biggest supporter. He just wanted to know, how will it help kids?
Yep.
And I explained to MSHAA, man, you're talking about 2 or 3 more kids getting to play in this event. And so you're increasing participation of the players by making this change. And that's good.
There you go. Kevin, final thoughts on this?
No, there appears to be some momentum building towards this. I think this would be the next step for Missouri high school baseball. Hopefully this goes through, and I'm also willing to nominate Dave Wilson to take on a new role with MSHAA and kind of be the new baseball guy. I think that'd be Coach Perkins probably jump in and second that one.
Yes, sir.
You're coming out of retirement, Coach.
On hold, Coach
Just
Wilson.
got me smiling.
Well, I will tell you this: my meetings with Daryl Bradley early on, I tell you what, he really seemed extremely sincere about. So I really feel like he's going to do his best job. I got a good feeling. I feel like I've always had good instincts on people, and he just seemed really concerned about trying to help us get what we want to get. And so I'm excited about him, no question about it. And it's just going to take us all pulling together. I think Kevin Moulder, I think Brian, you guys are huge in this. Number one, being able to talk about it on a podcast where it reaches a lot of people. Kevin is all over the map in Missouri baseball. And so it's the more people that talk about it, there's power in numbers. And we've got to get to that point where we're articulating it in the best way, and we can show where it's positive for kids. And I'll be speaking about it at the state clinic this year. And I hope that we get, I know probably when the coaches get their pamphlet of who's speaking and the topics, they're probably going to go, this will be a time to go get a lunch or something like that, or leave. But I hope they stay. It's my last year. I really want to be able to guide the next group of young coaches. If you want to make a change, this is the process to do it. And I think it's going to be important. And it'll be a discussion too. It won't just be me talking. It'll be a question and suggestion type format.
I think it has to be that way, Coach, because you have to engage people in these type of subjects. I really do. You have to engage. What do you think about this? Why do you not, get the varying thoughts from coaches? Well, why wouldn't it work? What is your thought process? How this, how that? if you can engage those people, that helps build those things that way. That's why I like engaging MSHAA and whatnot. And I hope Mr. Bradley hangs around, as far as that's concerned, and stays with it. I'd love to see some more stability so that the sport can take that next step with MSHAA and continue to grow, because it's a great product. And, you put it that way because it is. You go and look at the top players in this state, and there's kids from every class across the board. They're continuing their careers. It's big time baseball in this state, and especially pitching. We have some of the most dominating pitching around. I mean, these guys, you go out and you watch, go out, support your team. It's free. You go to your school baseball game, it doesn't cost you anything.
No,
it's free.
Unless you go to Troy.
Well, I understand why they got to pay. I mean, if you're going to get turf, charge $1 or $2. Let's get some turf on the ground. I don't care.
I'm with them. I'd love to charge.
That's fine with me. I'd pay $5. I'll go, and let's get some turf on the field so these kids can play, because it's already cold. It's just the nature of baseball in the Midwest.
And Kevin and Tony, wouldn't you agree? We've been around this a long time, and I think right now high school baseball in Missouri, it's as good now as it's ever been. I mean, there's a lot of players, and that's not cutting down the players and teams from the past. It's just the sport just continues to evolve.
And, we've talked about that a lot of times, just because all the baseball-specific training that's going on and how it's made our sport better. I mean, on a nationwide, I mean, we're getting guys drafted in the second round from Missouri. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah.
That's big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to say again, Dave, just thank you. I think every coach in Missouri owes you a big thank you for all the work that you're doing, and we know it's heartfelt.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will tell you this. People like yourself and all the coaches, the friendships I've been able to get through baseball, especially in the high school coaching, you guys will all be friends forever. And, man, it's been a run, and I'm going to end up in baseball doing something. But just my time, 29 years, man, you can't imagine the types of friends that you make in the business and how awesome it is. And that's why I love this sport.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
Good stuff. Gentlemen, I want to thank you all for taking the time to come on the show and talk some baseball. As always, it's fun. It's a great conversation. There's a lot of things, and we're going to continue to do this. So always a pleasure. Coach Wilson, good luck to you. I'm sure we'll have you back on in not too long. We're trying to work out to get your fellas on for a player spotlight. And so talk up some baseball with those guys.
Good players.
No.
Hey, I already coached them up too. I said, don't be throwing no bulletin board material out there.
Give me some ammo, man.
Yeah. I had a talk with him.
No bulletin. I love that. I love it.
Brian, once again, and Kevin, thank you for all you guys do, man. You've done nothing but help us as high school coaches, in doing what we love to do. And, man, we couldn't thank you enough. You guys support the sport so much across the state, and it's been pretty awesome.
Well, it's fun. We're gonna have to get over there and Kevin, right, and do a live.
Oh,
game.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening this spring.
We're gonna figure that one out. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Look, comment below. Talk to your ADs if you're looking at this. Go to your school. Talk to your ADs. Hey, we're for this. Parents, get involved with that. Talk to them. Help us out, because I think this would be good for the sport. So we appreciate it. If you like what we're doing, please, again, hit the subscribe button. The dinger's right there next to it. All your notifications for upcoming episodes. Support Youth Baseball Midwest. You can go to our website. We got some merchandise there. It helps us do these types of things. It helps us go and do live events, and keeps us moving forward. So, and that's what we want to do. We want to, and we get. I tell my wife this honestly. I'm sitting here next and talking to these gentlemen here who are. These guys have given a lot to this game. Coach Perkins, Coach Wilson, Coach Moulder, all these guys are doing great things. And I'm just Joe Schmo. And I get to talk to you guys and talk baseball.
You're making our sport better.
It beats working.
Yep.
I'll tell you, man. I'll tell you. So I'm extremely appreciative that you gentlemen take the time to come on the show, and not to mention these two gentlemen gave their time in a dad's coach's clinic this past 2 weekends. Great information. It was great stuff. Kevin, thank you. Tony, thank you.
Welcome.
I appreciate your guys' time very much.
It's fun.
So
Had a lot of fun doing it.
it's good information too. My gosh, you guys were packing stuff in there.
Yeah, we were rapid fire. You got that right. A lot of stuff flowing, baby. Keep moving. How much time I got? Oh, jeez.
Oh, mercy. And it was funny because I'd flash up a time in front of Mason, Coach Horn, and he'd be like, it almost was like, oh, man, I'm running out of time.
I think I cursed one time.
Oh, shoot. So, everybody, have a great day in the Lord. Enjoy your time. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.